I believe firmly that every single homestead should start is in the kitchen. Everybody has a kitchen. Everybody has some amount of a kitchen. And the reason is that all homesteading skills always go back to the kitchen. Whether you're raising livestock, you're raising it for food that's going to come back into the kitchen. Or
Mhm.
maybe you're raising, a garden, or you're raising herbs. All of those things eventually come back into the kitchen.
Welcome to Everyday Homesteading, the show for busy families who want more self-sufficiency without burning out. I'm Josh.
And I'm Carolyn from Homesteading Family. And in every episode, we share time-tested knowledge on topics from growing and preserving your food to raising livestock to herbal medicine and anything homesteading in between.
Let's jump in. You've been thinking about homesteading. Want to start maybe growing some of your own food, saving on the grocery bill, creating a little resilience, but it feels overwhelming and it feels expensive. Like you got to spend a lot to get going, right? You need chicken coops, you need raised beds, you need fencing, you need all these things.
Maybe you need to buy a new property and actually move out to the country, right?
To get started, that's what a lot of people feel like. Like, I got to move to actually do this.
Yeah. We've had people say, homesteading is something you do full time. You need 40 hours a week at least to be able to put it into homesteading in order to be able to homestead. And I don't have time because I have to work my job or I have a family to take care of.
and this is true.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Who can put 40 hours a week in?
Right. But the reality is who can afford something like that? That is just not, it's not reality. It's not realistic in any way.
Sure.
And right now, everything feels so expensive that if you believe you need to have all of these things to start homesteading, it feels like, oh, well, that's something that rich people do, is to homestead. Some, people who already have a ton of money. But the reality is that you can actually start right now. You can actually start today. And it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter if you don't have $5 extra. It doesn't matter, if you don't have a bunch of equipment, you can jump in today. And today we're going to be talking about how you can start homesteading right now, even if it feels too expensive or daunting to start.
Even if you live in a one-bedroom apartment in LA, like we did.
Like we did when we started homesteading. But first, before we dive in, of course, we always have a little bit of chit chat. If you don't have time for chit chat or it's just not your favorite part, feel free to fast forward. But, we like getting to connect with you guys over coffee for a few minutes and take a few minutes of a break out of our day and hang out with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what is going on with you right now on the homestead?
On the homestead. Well, right now we're turning our attention. We've kind of had the summer flush of like a lot of the summer vegetables that have come in and come out, the fruit. Most of the fruit now is done. We still have some apples. We'll probably get some pears in, but it's late for us for fruit. And so then we start turning our attention to winter type storage vegetables a little bit more. We'll have all the root vegetables coming in. We have so many winter squash, which is just exciting. Every year we plant more and more because we found that not only can we decorate with it. Maybe I should start with that because that's of course the most
The
important.
real reason for growing winter squash.
Not only can we decorate with it, we can also feed our children winter squash and ourselves. We can feed our families winter squash. So good for you. It preserves itself. I don't have to do any extra work aside from letting it cure out in some open air for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And then it cures, it preserves itself. I don't have to do anything. So that's a win in my book. Anything
Absolutely.
that preserves itself is a favorite around here. But then we found that when we have any extras, we can use it as livestock feed.
Yeah.
And so this is just a complete win. This year we have an incredible harvest of winter squash. And so we're looking at things like that. But the other thing we've really started focusing on right now is some seed saving and getting our seed in. We've been doing a little bit of that for all through the summer for the things that mature early. Lettuces are long done, things like that. But, now we're talking about some of those other crops. The green bean seed is in, corn seed, all the biennials. We've got our
Oh,
carrots, our parsnips, our
beets.
beets,
Yep.
things like that are all coming in right now. And just really making sure that we have a good harvest of seed. So we've got a lot of fresh seed for next year.
We've
So,
got some good tomatoes finally working well for us this
yes.
year. Gotta save some seeds.
We have been saving a lot of seeds from
Good, good,
tomatoes.
good. We're
So
getting them
we have a
labeled.
lot
Yep.
done and labeled, and we're doing more all the time.
I was
So,
noticing this morning that one of those glaciers actually finally did well.
oh,
Out of all the determinate smaller ones, the
okay,
glacier is one. There's multiple out there,
good.
but that's looking good.
All right, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
So, anyways, what are you up to?
Wow. Well, we're finishing up we're almost getting the end of our last rotation here in a few weeks. We
Oh,
will have been
pasture
through
rotation
pasture
for
rotation.
grazing.
So we're actually
Okay.
starting to wrap up the seasonal fencing, the temporary fencing behind them
Hmm.
and clean that up and get some of those supplies up and into the barn for winter. And, getting wood chips in. Takes
Yes.
a lot of wood chips. We do the deep bedding for our animals in the barn, so we're getting that in, and getting ready for animal harvest season. Now, of course, we've harvested chickens a couple times. We've got one more round of chickens and turkeys, but now we've got lamb to do,
Yeah.
and we've got pork to do coming up before too long. So starting to get all ready for that. Those are some big days for us
Yeah.
in bringing in the harvest.
Yeah.
So
That's exciting. It's
yeah,
kind of starting to see all the pantries filled, the root cellar filling up, the
yeah,
freezers filling up. I know the wood bin is already filled, so we have enough wood
yeah.
for the winter. Just kind of getting all of those things set away. Here, we're in North Idaho, for those of you guys who are new, the far north of Idaho. And so we have good winters. So we like to make sure we are all tucked in and ready for winter time in a way that means that, if there's a good snowstorm, we're just happy to stay tucked in at home.
Yep.
No big deal. It's
Yep.
a very nice thing to have everything all full and ready.
Sure is. And I'm excited about salt curing more pork this year.
Ooh, yeah.
We've got a lot of pork this year. Of course, I know you're excited to have a lot more lard
Yes.
back in the kitchen. We were short last year.
Yep.
And but I'm excited for some of these pork legs. We're going to
Ooh,
salt. Besides the bacon, of course, the bacon's always wonderful.
yeah.
We salt cure our own bacon, and we're going to do a lot more of the pork
Of the pork,
salt
yeah.
cured this year. Yeah.
Ooh, that's gonna be
Get a little
good.
less dependent on the freezers.
Yeah, that's always nice. Even if it's just the skill of salting down
Hmm.
meat, even if we're not using it all the time, it's a really nice thing to think
Yeah,
that we have some backups for for all that freezer space. So that's good.
absolutely.
Good. Right now, this is one of the brand new episodes for the brand new Everyday Homesteading podcast. For those of you guys who've been listeners for a while of the Pantry Chat, we're thankful you're still here. Thank you.
Mm.
But we are now kicking off Everyday Homesteading. So we could really, really use your help right now to get the word out to new homesteaders or people who are looking for solid homestead solutions, practical advice, and actually diving into the why and the how behind all the homesteading
Absolutely.
skills. And the way you can help us right now is to obviously, share this with any friends that you think would be interested in
Hmm.
homesteading. But also, if you would take a moment and just rate and review the show, that would really, really help us out. And then download as many episodes as you feel like downloading. That really gives us a big boost. It just tells the algorithms, hey, show this to more people. And that'll really help us as we're kicking off Everyday Homesteading here.
Yeah, at least five, and there's 5 new episodes for you. So if you
Yep.
can at least check those out, that'd be great. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to please like and subscribe if you haven't already. That also through the YouTube channel helps get the word out and spread the podcast as we're getting this new version going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Cool.
exciting.
We need to, before we get on with the episode, say thank you to our sponsors for making this episode possible today. And our sponsor for the day is Azure Standard.
Oh, we've been using Azure Standard as our bulk buying go-to store for probably 18 or so years now, maybe even longer.
Yeah, I like to say if we can't grow it or make it, we usually go there first
Yep.
before we look elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just a great spot to find all of your good quality, healthy bulk supplies. You
Yep.
can also get things not in bulk if you want it, but we tend to go towards bulk buying as it's just such a great way to save money. But they have so many good options for healthy living. We just absolutely love it.
They are giving you, our listeners and subscribers, 15% off your first order of $100 or more. So you want to use the code homesteading family 15. Go to their website, azurestandard.com.
There you go.
And we'll get you show notes there, but azurestandard.com. Use the code homesteading family 15, all one word, for 15% off your first order over $100. Does getting started with homesteading have to be expensive?
Oh, it feels like it. Nowadays, you look around and everybody, all the influencers out there, you go to Pinterest, right? You go to Instagram. All the influencers have these like chicken coops that match their houses, and they've got all these like beautiful picture perfect things. And everybody's has, freeze dryers or dehydrators or pressure canners, all these things that cost a lot of money. And it can feel really hard to like jump into that, like put the money out to be able to get started.
Well, and I feel like you have to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a pretty chicken coop, and there's nothing wrong with tools that help you get there.
Yeah.
Right. We have some of those, and everybody does, but it's starting to become a myth with so much imagery, like you're talking about, that like, whoa, this is inaccessible. The only way I can get there is if I'm doing what these guys are doing. And I think we want to bust that myth up a little bit.
Well, and
it's not true.
Are busting it up from our own experience because we started broke. We started newly married in an apartment and absolutely broke.
Yep.
But because of that, we actually started the right way. I hesitate to say that like the right way, like there's one right answer. And yet in this, there really is an important way to start that sets you up for success for all of your homesteading journey versus doing it the wrong way. And yes, I mean the wrong way, which is to like jump in, go buy chickens, go get that starter garden raised bed pack that like has all the stuff, just start buying stuff that you don't even know how to use and don't know how to take care of. Yep. And then not only do you have all this expensive stuff, but you're probably going to be really frustrated and disheartened because you're going to have a lot of failures.
Hey, be encouraged. We started with top ramen, tomatoes, and 3 parakeets called the Three Amigos. That was the beginning of our homesteading journey. We could afford top ramen. We could grow a few tomatoes on the balcony, and the apartment complex would only let us have parakeets.
I guess we could have had goldfish, but that didn't quite have the same, parakeets seem closer to chickens.
Yeah, today I might have thought, hey, an aquaculture system on the kitchen.
Yeah. We might have come up with something a little more aggressive. We would have gotten ourselves in more trouble.
But point is, we're going to give you, Carol's going to give you some good tips and strategies here, but you start where you're at.
You start where you're at, and that is the most important thing. And that can be in a second story apartment like we did.
Yeah.
With a tiny little balcony or no balcony, because the reality is the place that I believe firmly that every single homestead should start is in the kitchen. Everybody has a kitchen. Everybody has some amount of a kitchen. And the reason is that all homesteading skills always go back to the kitchen. Whether you're raising livestock, you're raising it for food that's going to come back into the kitchen. Or maybe you're raising, a garden, or you're raising herbs. All of those things eventually come back into the kitchen. So if you don't start with the foundation of really strong kitchen skills, at some point or another, you're going to get stalled out on your journey. As you're learning more skills, as you're adding skills on, you're going to come back to the kitchen somewhere.
It's funny, if I just a little story, remembering our beginning to start to share in this format early on, one of the things we realized, we're both students of permaculture.
Mhm.
We're very focused on the raising the food.
Yeah.
But what we realized was there wasn't at the time a great bridge. It's like raising all the food's great, but all of a sudden, if you haven't built your kitchen skills before some of those skills, all of a sudden you're flooded and it's hard to handle, right?
Yeah,
And so
definitely.
that really points toward those kitchen skills and getting those down and working outward. And like you said, everybody's got a kitchen.
Yeah.
You can start
Everybody,
right there.
you can start right there. And, a really important thought here, though, is that yes, it's true. Some homesteading projects do cost money, and some of them are quite expensive. You don't have to do all of them to be a homesteader. That's really a mindset of being more of a producer than a consumer.
Hmm.
And so, one thing that you can do, though, as you start to hone your kitchen skills, is that you actually start saving money in the kitchen where you can. And that starts building up this ability to start stashing money and
Right.
saving money so that you can start saving towards the next thing. The other thing that happens is your health starts to increase. You guys, if you just start replacing some of the junk food that or convenience food and pre-prepared food that's coming in from the grocery store, you are going to notice a difference in your health. You're going to have more energy, and that is just something that you really do want when you're starting a homesteading journey.
Yeah. Little story going back to that apartment,
Okay.
right? For you,
Yeah.
of working out of the kitchen and hacking some of this, figuring it out.
Yeah.
And of course, there wasn't the abundance of information there is
No,
now.
this is a long time ago.
But what how did that play out for you back in
Yeah,
those
well,
days?
we found ourselves in a second story apartment. So we were
Hmm.
upstairs. We didn't have ground outside. We had a little balcony, and so we were so broke. I remember, back then I wouldn't buy meat unless I could get it for 99 cents a pound or less. Is that a joke nowadays? Like, I don't think that ever happens. If it does, I'd be like, I don't think this is real meat. Like, if I saw something for that cost, I would really be thinking this is fake somehow. For date nights, we were walking down to Baskin Robbins and splitting the flavor of the day ice cream cone because we could get it for like 49
It
cents.
was something crazy.
It
I was
was
going to say
some,
35. I might be thinking 50s when I was a kid, but yeah, it was something
it
like
was,
that.
but I mean, that's how broke we were when we started. But what was really cool about that is it actually pushed us into these skills right off because cooking
Mm,
from scratch and cooking from ingredients saves you money
yeah.
right away. And so, out of the need of saving money, I was still a college student. You were just starting a business.
Hmm.
We were just learning the skills that we needed in order to apply to later parts of our homesteading. And when we were able to have a little bit more money and have a little more padding,
Right.
we were able to start putting that into more things and more equipment and,
Sure.
more
Built over years.
ingredients.
Yeah.
So yeah, so for us that was a thing, but I remember learning back then it was Martha Stewart. Back then Martha Stewart was younger and we were still learning. Like I would watch her shows
I
and
remember
learn.
that. That's
I
right.
learned how to cook broth, like long cooked broth. Now, I have to say my mom was an excellent cook and still is an excellent cook. So
Hmm.
I had seen her amazing example for a long time. So I came into being married knowing the basics of how to cook, but maybe not understanding how to like put it all
That's
together in a
that's
kitchen.
humble. She came into marriage knowing how to cook.
But knowing how to cook a recipe versus running a kitchen and a grocery budget
Yeah.
are actually totally
Yeah.
different things.
Yeah.
And so I had to develop those skills of how do you actually run a kitchen off of a very tight budget.
So
Yeah.
let's talk about that, to get to, for people listening, what are some of the things that people need to learn first?
Okay, start learning by replacing the things that you're buying that
Mm.
are pre-prepared foods. And what I mean by that is anything that has a list of ingredients on it is a pre-prepared food. So what you want to start switching to is buying things
Mm.
that have no ingredients. They are the ingredients.
Okay.
And so what you're going to do right there is you're going to increase your health because you're cutting out all the extra preservatives, all the extra sugars, all the extra sodiums that aren't good for you, like all these extra things, because those are all getting added in to the sides. So we're talking things like your broths that you buy from the store in the little
That are a
cans.
base for so much cooking, right?
So much cooking, right? Your sauces, condiments, beverages is a really big one.
Mm.
Any convenience meals, things like that. You really want to start replacing those and learning how to replace them. And, one of the great places to start is again, start by changing your buying habits from buying these foods that are prepackaged to buying the ingredients for the foods and starting to buy things that are ingredients, they don't have an ingredient list on them.
So we kind of call that buying the outside of the grocery
Yeah,
store,
buying the
right?
outside of the grocery store.
What is it? What do you mean
Now,
by
I
that?
gotta say, I think grocery stores have now gotten smart to this and they've started mixing in a lot of pre-prepared foods onto the outside. But it used to be that all the outside of your grocery store would be, your produce section, your meat section,
Hmm.
your milk and egg section, kind of these
Yep.
things that are just the ingredients and aren't the pre-prepared foods.
Right.
So you really want to look at buying in that way. As you start doing that, you are going to see changes. You're going to see your dollars starting to stretch a little bit more. And the really cool thing about buying ingredients is that, buying one ingredient, it can go into all different sorts of condiments. It can go into all different sauces. There's a lot of applications for each ingredient. So you end up having to buy fewer things than if you're buying all the pre-packaged, pre-prepared foods.
I think there's a myth out there that it's more expensive to buy on the outside to buy the fresh
Mm-hmm.
food.
Yeah.
But not too long ago, I was shopping. You sent me to the store for something, and one of the things was like chips or something. We were having we were having
Barbecue
a
or
group or
something. Yeah.
whatever. And so we were getting some chips, and you wanted me to get this big giant bag, and they didn't have one. So I got to look at the small. It got me to looking at the price per pound, and it really clicked for me. I was aghast at how expensive that was,
Yes.
and I was like, the organic vegetables over there are cheaper than this.
Yeah.
And so, just can you talk about that? Because I think it's a
Oh, yeah.
myth that it's expensive to go to that outside row, and I don't think that's the case.
Absolutely. If you start looking at the price per unit and you compare that to your like price same unit, a lot of times now it's per ounce.
Yeah.
So price per ounce, and then you go compare that to what your price per ounce for fresh produce would be or even good quality meat would be,
Hmm.
and you will be absolutely amazed at how much money you're spending for something that's a lesser quality ingredient. The packaging of that is all designed to make you feel like you're getting a lot and
Hmm.
something really exciting. You go and those bags of chips are all puffed up with air and you open it up and there's what like I think every year the chips stay the same cost, but there's fewer and fewer chips in the bag
And
when
more
you
air,
actually more
right? It
air.
puffed the bag.
Yeah, so when you're watching that per
Yeah.
unit price, it's actually a really big difference. And
Yeah, you got to
yeah,
check it because they make it visually deceptive.
they really do.
Yeah.
Well, and they even make it pricing deceptive because you go buy your fresh fruits and your produce by the pound,
Hmm.
but then you have, just a price for your convenience foods.
Right.
And so, it just breaks it down. You have to really pay attention to
Right.
that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
once you start getting a grip on getting your kitchen working off of ingredients instead of all these prepackaged foods, the next step to take is really to start moving away from buying at the grocery store in the
Mm.
first place and start moving to your local farmers markets or your local farm stands or maybe even like the local you pick stands if you live
Hmm.
somewhere that has some you pick stuff. CSAs are a great way to go. Community supported agriculture, where you're bringing in a box from a farm every week or every 2 weeks.
Right.
And it's kind of a subscription box because what that gives you now, you're going beyond just the ingredients, shopping the ingredients.
Right.
Now you have the things that are in season. And in season foods are like gold mines for homesteaders
Hmm.
because they're way more nutrient dense, especially if you're getting them straight from a farmer. They're picked that morning, they're picked the day before. They haven't lived through shipping. So they're picked ripe or like right on the cusp of ripe
Mm.
instead of these things in the grocery store that were like, I don't know, they've been hanging around somewhere in a truck and shipping for 2-3 weeks
Sure. Most of
at
those things
least.
are raised and bred to ship well and
for shipping.
store for a long time,
Yeah.
not for nutrient density.
No, but they also taste better. But when they're in abundance, they're also cheaper,
Right.
which is amazing because you're getting this better product and it's cheaper.
Yep.
Like that's incredible.
Well, and another tip here that I'm going to throw out, I don't know what was in your notes, is
Hmm.
you would start buying the seconds, the overflow
Yes.
of what they had, because everybody wants what's shiny and pretty, or sometimes somebody's got a, overproduction of a certain fruit or vegetable, and so you would start buying boxes. That's kind of how, what I remember, you got into
Yep.
preservation, which is the next step here from buying this way, right? Is
Yeah.
is you start preserving your own, but you do that if you're not growing enough yet by taking advantage of those extras and those bulk buys.
Right. Yeah, and this is a benefit of if you start going to those farmers markets or those farm stands regularly, you start creating relationships
Hmm.
with the farmers and you want to talk to them and let them know you, get to know them by first name. Because when we were doing that regularly, I was able to go say, hey, Jack or whoever
I
it
remember
was
Jack.
Jack, Jack in his farm stand. And I was able to say, hey, if at the end of the weekend of you being, here trying to sell your produce, you have stuff left over that's not going to last, here's my phone number. Call me and I will buy things at a good discount if it helps you,
Yeah.
with your produce. He would got to where he was calling me almost every week, every other week,
Yep.
and I would get 50% off to 75% off boxes of fresh, good quality
Yeah.
produce that he just, wouldn't wait until next week, wouldn't be good quality till next week. They were perfect for us, and I had a great, deal on them. So
Yeah.
it was really good.
Yeah, and then you started not just having us eat well at
Hmm.
a good cost, but you started building this.
Yeah, we started building the pantry.
Right.
That is the next step. This is something that you can do very easily from your kitchen. You don't need a homestead. You don't need land. You don't need livestock or chickens or any of these things to start getting into preserving your own food. But it is a skill that once you end up with all that livestock, once you end up with
Mm.
gardens, you're going to have to have. So this is an incredible place to start right now. Some food preservation takes equipment. If you want to get into freeze drying or pressure canning, you're probably going
Right.
to have to buy some equipment that's expensive. So you want to start saving up for that. But some of it is pretty much free. Fermentation costs absolutely nothing
Yep.
besides the produce and a little salt.
Dehydrating is not that expensive. I mean, you
Dehydrating is,
did a lot of that in the
yep,
early years. That's not an expensive machine.
very
Yeah.
inexpensive. You don't even need like special mason jars in
Right.
order to store these things. You can use jelly jars or spaghetti
Sure.
jars from the grocery store.
You can also do a fair amount with water bath canning. Now, you can't do everything that people want to do, but you can go a pretty good distance with water bath canning, and that's not expensive.
Well, and you can safely water bath can in the stock pot you already have in your
Right.
kitchen. And
Exactly.
so you don't even need to go get a water bath canner. So stepping into food preservation is just an amazing next step. But there's so many things that you can do from your kitchen.
You can freeze, right? We're talking preservation. You
Yes.
can freeze. I mean, you can freeze eggs. You can do a lot of things with.
Hmm.
You've already got a freezer.
Yeah.
You know.
And so all of these things are going to be saving you money. They're going to be starting and building your skills. They're going to be increasing your health. Like it's just the next steps that you
Yeah.
take. And you can do it, like you can start today. You can start doing it right now, today, and start learning how to make things from ingredients and from scratch cooking and cut out those pre-prepared foods.
Absolutely. And it's really, you're building skills right where you're at. And I
Right.
think for me, talking to people, and, I get people wanting to do consults and they want to go from the city to 10 acres or 40 acres and start a farm.
Yeah.
And they haven't grown anything on their own property and they haven't preserved food yet. So I love this encouragement that you're giving everybody, because anybody can start in the kitchen. Anybody can do any of these steps, and you're building a homesteading life. You're building homesteading skills that then move in as you can maximize other space and gardens and chickens and whatnot.
Well, and I should mention that if you guys are hearing this and you're like, "Oh, I really need to up my kitchen game
Hmm.
and get better at the kitchen," whether you already know how to do some of this and you just want to get further into the food preservation side, or you're brand new beginner and you're just wanting to start with seasonal recipes and learning how to cook from scratch, you're going to want to check out our Homestead Kitchen magazine. It's a monthly magazine that comes out. If you're in the United States, it gets delivered right to your door as a physical magazine. And it has recipes and from preservation recipes that are really simple, easy to follow, all the way like regular fresh eating recipes. It has inspiration from different herbalists that can get you started even on doing your own herbal medicine right from your kitchen.
It's another one you can do.
You could do it right from your kitchen.
Right, at home.
There's so many things. It's just amazing. So you're going to want to check that out. That's over at homesteadingfamily.com/podcast-magazine. Again, that's homesteadingfamily.com/podcast-magazine. There you go.
And we'll leave you that link in the notes somewhere.
Yeah, mouthful.
Yeah, and it has been great hanging out with you. Remember, if you've enjoyed this episode, download another, like, subscribe, all that.
All that.
And we will look forward to seeing you next time.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.